Hey there, friends and foes. Good evening, multiverse. This is Back of the Cereal Box, the pop culture podcast that celebrates the fun of the Saturdays or weekdays of our youth while navigating adulthood. Today, we've got VIP Patreon member Dennis Posey in the virtual rec room with us, and we're going to be talking about the classic Disney series Darkwing Duck. And we are going to do that right after this.
Saturday morning, it's fun for all. Cartoons and cereal, let's have a ball. Comic books, kaiju, pro wrestling too. The fun is waiting for you. Back of the cereal box.
All right, guys and gals, we are here. It's me. It's Dennis Posey. He is a VIP Patreon member. And Dennis, we have to thank our other Patreon members for making all of our broadcasting available. They support the show, our Cereal Box Super Friends, and you too can have your name in lights at patreon.com/cerealboxpodcast. And if you're like Dennis, do the VIP level and host your own show and advertise your business. Dennis, tell everyone more about your store, Books and More in Pulaski, Tennessee.
So we're a small town, friendly local game store. And we sell games, and we have books, used books. My wife fixes computers. In a small town, you got to do a number of different things. We have a huge library of games that were just like a library. You come in and you take something off the shelf and you put it on the table and play. And we even, if you come in, play a game with us or play one of our games on your own, we'll even sell you a game at 10% off. That's kind of we encourage people to come in and use our space and play our games. So we have about 300 games in the demo library, and then most of those games, when they're available, we have them for sale. So I think it's a great place if you're in a small town, you want to see something different. Come into the bookstore.
I keep saying I'm going to come down there. I'm going to come down there, and the only problem is it's about an hour and a half away from me, so it's a commitment. Yeah. But I plan to do it. So for those of you who are tuning in and watching us live on Facebook, this is how this show works. Dennis and I are going to celebrate the fun of Darkwing Duck, and this is a Tuesday night. It's not a Saturday morning, because when I was a kid, Saturday mornings meant big bowls of cereal, pajamas, cartoons, comic books, kaiju. On a Tuesday night, we're going to be more loose with that theme because Dennis is going to be the primary lead here. Sponsored by Books and More in Pulaski, Tennessee. So, Dennis, what do you want to do first?
Well, I really want to dig into Darkwing Duck, and let's talk about where did this show come from? Why did it happen? And who were the people behind it? Who decided that this was a good idea? I think it's an interesting origin for this show.
Well, so in doing that, let's do the tale of the tape. Darkwing Duck is an animated superhero comedy television series produced by Disney Television Animation, formerly Walt Disney Television Animation. I don't know that matters, but whatever. And it first ran from 1991 to 1992 on both the syndicated programming block, the Disney Afternoon, and concurrently on Saturday mornings on ABC. A total of 91 episodes were aired, and it features the adventures of Darkwing Duck, who is the superheroic alter ego of the ordinary suburban Drake Mallard. And Dennis, I got to be honest with you. So this came out the same Saturday morning as Batman the Animated Series. They came out the same day. Now, Darkwing Duck was also syndicated daily,
right?
But on Saturday mornings, it was running opposite of Batman the Animated Series. And I've got to be honest with you that I was not a big fan of Darkwing Duck at the time. I was in college. I was watching Batman the Animated Series when I could catch it, but this was at the time I thought it was just a little bit too juvenile. But going back and watching it now, I appreciate a lot of the character tropes, in particular, the character of Darkwing Duck, who he's an anthropomorphic duck, and he's kind of a mashup of Batman and the Shadow.
Yeah, and with a little bit of Roger Rabbit thrown in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So none of the other ducks in DuckTales or this have those jowls like that. Now, just picture Roger Rabbit, right? Those big ears.
Yeah.
And who else has those jowls that come out like that? And he Darkwing Duck is animated and interesting. So like the city of St. Canard, clearly meant to represent Gotham, has that same sort of dark Gothic
style. There it is right behind them.
Yeah. And so there's clearly that's what's going on. But and like you said, we're pulling on like those classic like radio dramas and the cartoons that came from them, that era, and the comic books that came from. So that era of storytelling is what they're aiming for. We're doing a first kind of full parody, right? So we see parody episodes in other Disney afternoon and Disney Saturday morning shows. We'll have parody brought in as a topic or as the the main purpose of an entire episode. This entire show is a homage and a parody, and I'm not surprised that running against Batman, you would take the serious exploration of the similar topic and not quite get what was going on with the parody. I totally get it.
Well, but total of 91 episodes were aired. And when I read that, I thought 91 to 92, 91 episodes, and now I understand why. Because it wasn't just Saturday mornings and it wasn't just weekdays, it was both.
Yeah, so
Holy
it was
cow.
two so ABC ordered 2 sets of 13 episodes for Saturday morning.
Okay.
And in syndication, for a year of syndication, it starts in September, goes through March for the actual release. December starts in September of 91, goes through December of 1992. Which was just September. Yeah. I'm sorry. The original syndication release is from September 6th through December 7th of 1991. It's really easy to get confused. So during that period, 65 episodes for this afternoon. That is a huge order for essentially a single season. So I mean, the way Wikipedia sees this thing, they see 1 season of 65 episodes that was syndication, and then 2 seasons of 13 episodes for ABC. So yes, there was a lot of this show, and it was successful. It was nominated for awards. It only won one of them, and not the biggest. What one award it won was an Annie for Jim Cummings, who is a superhero in the voice. But I think the big thing is, how did we get Darkwing Duck? Darkwing Duck was supposed to be like what was supposed to go into this slot was a revival of Bullwinkle and Rocky.
Wait, what? Wait, how did we get from Bullwinkle and Rocky to Darkwing Duck?
Well, it turns out Disney had the rights to make VHS of Bullwinkle and Rocky. They didn't have the rights to the characters. They couldn't make new films. When they went pretty far down that road, that was their plan until they decided that. At the same time, DuckTales is successful, and there's an episode of DuckTales called 00 Duck. And Eisner says, "Oh, that title, I love it. You should make a whole series around that title, and you should make Launchpad McQuack, the sort of bumbling, in DuckTales, he's a bumbling crasher of vehicles. Like, he can take off, but he almost never lands. He almost always crashes. So take that character and make him a secret agent and do a whole show. and uh, and the 007 folks said, no, you can't call anything 00. We own that those two words. We own that. You can't. So then they had to rename it, and then they said, well, let's just change it entirely. So then they went for that, the Shadow, Green Hornet, that sort of noir radio drama superhero, that whole style and that era of comic books is really their inspiration. And so it's a parody, but really it's a parody that kind of honors the source material. I really think it does. At least makes you think about it. And it's interesting because this is the first really action-oriented animation for Disney. So there is conflict and adventure in the previous Disney animation. We talked about the Gummy Bears, DuckTales, for instance, but they don't focus on the battles, on the fighting, like a superhero animation would do. And this is their first time.
Well, so let's talk about some of the characters. So
yeah,
these are the like some of the favorite characters from Darkwing Duck, starting from the left to the right. Obviously, we start with Darkwing Duck. Tell us about the guy right next to his right or his left, Negaduck.
So Negaduck, he is your ultimate villain. Think of like let's see, the Joker, or Xavier's counterpart, Magneto, right? He's able eventually to lead a group of some of these other villains that you've got here, as they call themselves the Furious Five.
Okay.
And but he is there's okay. So, and the creator has said this. Was it Tad Stones? Like, he's not going for continuity here. These were not meant to air in order. We had some airing in the afternoon and some airing on Saturday, and they were aired as they came out. However, so he's not worried about continuity. But there's like one episode that shows an origin for Negaduck, where basically Darkwing is split, kind of a la Captain Kirk, into the positive and negative. And Disney quickly axed the positive. The all positive version of Darkwing Duck is boring, but they made Negaduck a recurring character, and he is really just about the most evil character in that you can think of in animation. There's like no redeeming quality to him. He's not good. He's not good to the other villains.
Well, his weapon of choice is a chainsaw. Is that right?
There are a lot of episodes with him with a chainsaw, right? So you have the gas gun that Darkwing wields, which is kind of it's a little bit like Doctor Who's sonic screwdriver, and that it does whatever you want, right?
Okay.
The
Green Hornet carried a gas gun.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, he looks like the Shadow. He carries the Green Hornet's weapon. So yeah, he's a non-lethal character, right? Like, but Negaduck's, he's around with a chainsaw. Now this is a world where, people don't seem to die from would kill the anvils to the head, and you come back. But he definitely is like ultra violent and so selfish.
Well, and then next to him in the center is Morgana.
Morgana, she's an interesting character because she is a mix. You should think Morticia Addams, and look at that dress and the way it fits her, and Elvira, right? So this, and she is this magical, occult, femme fatale figure, and she's a villain, but she has a redemption arc. She eventually becomes Darkwing's would-be girlfriend, right? Or definitely love interest. and they fight together, and she's trying to get him more. You know what's really missing? Well, let's just go through. I'll tell you who's really missing from this picture. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, kind of like Batman's Catwoman.
Yeah, kind of. But I mean, Catwoman doesn't really become. She's more of chaos, right? She doesn't really ever become on the side of good, and Morgana does.
Okay.
She really does have a redemption arc.
So talk to us about the rat figure.
Okay,
Who's that?
so I'm gonna get his name right. Is it Megaduck? He really used to have a really dumb name. Let's see. Clicking here, and he yeah, they were gonna give him a really dumb name and they changed it, but yeah, I think it's
I'm trying to find a list of the characters and
character names. Hold on, blanking on it. Darkwing Duck characters.
Well, I do know about Gizmo Duck.
Yeah. His name is Megavolt. I knew it was Mega. His name is Megavolt.
Okay.
Yeah, and so his electrical powers, and then and he's actually the villain that shows up in the most episodes. He's also kind of the least threatening. It just seems really kind of incompetent. Now, Gizmo Duck, who was going to be called Robo Duck. That's why he has an R. Yeah. They decided not to use that name, so I went with Gizmo Duck. And he is one of a few characters like Launchpad that appear in both DuckTales and Darkwing Duck. Now, Tad Stone says that they occur in two different universes, but the fans say, "Look, we prove you wrong." And so there are several places where Scrooge McDuck is actually referenced in an episode. So it's like, so they're parallel universe, but the same, like they're very similar, very closely aligned parallel universes where the same characters exist. Okay, so Gizmo Duck is in Darkwing Duck is really a Superman to Darkwing's Batman-like character. He is that, bright, shiny, noble, Boy Scout kind of a character next to Darkwing Duck's like moody, brooding, actually kind of selfish character. So they're very different. So it's meant to be Superman and Batman.
Or Iron Man and Batman.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, that's definitely.
Well, of course, Iron Man wasn't really a thing yet in 1991. He was still a D-list character. Yeah. So then we have Launchpad McQuack, which we talked about.
Right, and he's not the same character.
No.
His personality is a little different, right? He's dumber than he is in DuckTales, but he's much more talented at operating. He doesn't crash everything he operates, and he is Darkwing Duck's super fan.
So he's actually a competent pilot. So
go back one picture. Yeah, so this is really a family shot here. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to talk about Gosling in a second. So it's this friendship with Launchpad, because he starts out as all Darkwing all the time. There is no alter ego. He lives in that bridge, and he is all the time Darkwing, and he is out for his own popularity. His ego is enormous, and he's just there to fight crime and stroke his ego. And then we have Launchpad, who is like his one and only true fan, and he becomes his friend and his brother and his sidekick, right? In the first episode, Darkwing makes the choice to adopt Gosling. the girl with the red pigtails, who wasn't in your
Mhm.
first picture. She is the heart and soul of this series, and she is her own little spitfire. She has her own ambitions. She does what she wants and what she thinks is right. And
Well,
she
she's kind of like Penny from Inspector Gadget or Jade from Jackie Chan Adventures.
yeah, yeah, kind of. I think she's a mix of like Penny from Inspector Gadget and Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh,
And that's
okay.
actually how she was described to the animators. This is the energy I want her to have. So she is this strong, imaginative, independent.
She a little bit
Yeah,
sarcastic, smart
yeah.
aleck.
She's smart aleck. She's sarcastic. She does not want to be held back by any, like, that's not what little girls do kind of thing. And that actually is a great character to see Disney portraying, right? That really independent. Reminds me a little bit of the girl from The Rescuers.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's just that sort of strong will and
You're a bad person.
yeah, and she is Darkwing's heart. So Darkwing goes from this selfish, egotistical character. He has a bunch of origin stories. There's like 3 different origin stories in the series, but they're all about just feeling sort of downtrodden and rising to the occasion of, but really becoming this larger character, consumed with the ego and presenting, and he becomes, this Drake Mallard character, and raises. Uh, you only see him in the bridge. He's living in the bridge. Suddenly, Launchpad and him and Goslin are living in a suburban home, right next to, what is that little guy's name? His name is.
Oh, Chicken Little?
Yeah, the guy looks just like Chicken Little. I was thinking that earlier. Um, and he is the sort of,
Or
um,
Oliver from the Brady Bunch.
right. He is
It's a
sort of
deep
a
cut.
clumsy, or the boy that lives next door in The Simpsons. What? Milton.
Millhouse.
Yeah, Millhouse. Yeah. Um, he is Goslin's best friend and lives next door, and he's like we're gonna really booky, nerdy, and he's in his own way. He's really her opposite, but he's kind of secondary. The Goslin is a major character, and what's really important to her about her is how she changes Darkwing from a character who would maybe not be as loved by the audience because of that ego, and because of this sort of desire for the limelight. He is absolutely makes this a family show. She makes this a family show by winning his heart, and gives him a reason to try to make the streets safe, and a reason to be more noble.
Outstanding. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm just going to throw this up here real quick. These are some of the other characters. No particular order. Any specific ones that are important to the plot of the overall story?
So there isn't an episode that show, what's his name? This Taurus Bulba, who's voiced by Tim Curry. Tim Curry, sorry. He's voiced by the Tim Curry.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and he is at one point revealed to be the leader of a criminal organization. So kind of think international criminal. Think Man from Uncle was an organization fighting. What are they called? Well, the organization that the Taurus is ahead of is called FOWL, FOWL. And interestingly, they have the F stands for 2 different words in it, but there's a foul in DuckTales too.
Okay.
So it's that parallel universe kind of thing going on. Like there are characters that look the same, and there are organizations that are so similar. And these 3 characters we see here on the bottom, they only occur in one episode.
The Bruiser Brothers.
So those are regular characters in the vintage Disney
Yes.
duck cartoons, and Scrooge's nemesis here. What's his name? He's another rich duck.
McDougal.
McDougal, yes. And then
Who's the green duck? Who is she? Do we know?
She's also a classic Disney character. And let me see if Magica Dispel. She's
Okay.
Magica Dispel. Although she's not always green, apparently. I'm looking at a picture of her, and she's like her fur is all white. But those 3 characters only occur in a, maybe not faithfully drawn by the Blackie Smith here. Those 3 characters, they only occur in one episode, because one of the interesting things is that there is an episode where Darkwing looks like Donald Duck.
Oh, really?
But for the most part, except for that one episode where those characters show up, none of the all of the characters in Darkwing Duck, with those couple of exceptions, and very rarely are they seen, are original. Either original in Darkwing Duck or original in the DuckTales material they pull from. But they don't go back to classic Disney characters. They are new.
So we already talked about the electric rat. Who's this crazy purple-haired green duck character down there?
So this reminds me very much of the from Spider-Man lore. There's the professor who turns himself into a lizard.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a professor who turns himself into a plant, and his name is Bushroot.
Okay.
And
is Bushroot a villain or a hero?
He is a villain. He's one of the Fearsome Five.
Okay.
So he's a half plant, half duck mutant, because of one of his failed experiments. So very much like that origin story from Spider-Man.
Well, that is really interesting. So, this series was very popular, and it remains very popular. And I see a lot of people calling for this and Gargoyles to have a renaissance, to have a revival.
Yes, and I'm 100% support that in both cases. There has been rumor that we should see Darkwing Duck come to Disney Plus.
Well, so that is an interesting rumor, because last week a series dropped on Disney Plus that was previously on Disney XD. It's 10 years old, but I'd never heard of it. Star versus the Forces of Evil, and it's phenomenal, by the way.
I should check that out. I've heard of it. I heard of it when it aired before, but I never saw it.
Yeah. Oh, it's unbelievably good. So they're starting to drop a lot of those old series on Disney Plus. Gargoyles is there now, and so and DuckTales and Tailspin are there. So I can't imagine that Darkwing Duck is far behind.
So now Darkwing Duck occurs in a number of episodes of DuckTales, and he's introduced as a fictional character.
Yeah.
Launchpad's favorite series character. He's like I guess it would be a live action show that he enjoyed, and he thinks the character is great. He's like, once again, the biggest fan, like the only true fan of that series.
Well, so is it fair to say then that maybe the Darkwing Duck series is actually taking place in Launchpad's imagination?
It might be, but here's what they did in DuckTales. So first they introduced this character who had been playing it for a long time. They brought back Jim Cummings to do the voice of Darkwing Duck in the set that occurred inside DuckTales, and he got too old for the character. And Launchpad meets the other biggest fan of Darkwing Duck and encourages him to become that character, to replace the classic character and take his place as he's no longer able to perform. And then the show gets canceled, and Launchpad encourages that character, that actor, to actually become the crime fighter for real. So really introduces, it's like a backdoor input. So in that world, there is in the DuckTales world, here is an actor taking over for another actor and then becoming the actual character that he was portraying. And it's a really funny episode because they get they're in the cave kind of, there's the big giant computer, it's very Batman, and they're all there and they're excited about fighting crime, and the computer says there's no crime. So they're going out trying to find crime, and it's they do eventually find it, but it's like we were like, oh no, don't go foil those people, there'll be another false flag. They're not actually. So they have appeared there. So according to this article, the development for the reboot on Disney Plus started in 2020, and Seth Rogen.
God, keep Seth Rogen away from it.
And Evan Goldberg were credited as executive producer.
Actually, I shouldn't say that. Seth Rogen actually did a pretty great job with the Ninja Turtles. What was the latest movie? Mutant Massacre or Mutant Mayhem? Mutant Mayhem. Well, for those of you who are looking for your Darkwing Duck fix now, Dynamite Comics has a fantastic series that is so faithful to the source material. It's really like watching an episode, but on the page. And they've also done the Negaduck spinoff, and they did another spinoff called the Justice Ducks.
Yes. So at the very end of Darkwing Duck, there was a two-parter, and they were trying to create another series called Justice Ducks, and it was going to have Morgana, and Gizmo Duck, and Darkwing Duck, and two other sort of minor characters, and then they were going. If they had made the spinoff, they would have kept Gizmo and Darkwing, and I think the other three were going to be replaced. But they never made the spinoff. They say they didn't make the spinoff because the DuckTales movie that didn't do the numbers they were looking for. So they were going to do a Darkwing movie. They were going to launch this new series, and they just didn't see the numbers that they wanted.
So for those of you who are watching and hearing that is not a new pattern for Disney. This has been going on since the early 90s, where Disney drives an IP into the ground and they overestimate the demand in different formats and then lose their shirt. So And then they cancel anything that is even remotely related or looks like it. That is not a new phenomenon for Disney. Now, we do have some comments here, Dennis. So we got some people who are watching live. Aubrey was commenting while she was driving. I had to send her a note that said, "Get off the phone and drive." But Molly Daniels is watching. And Molly is a longtime fan of our show, and she said she caught a few episodes and loved it. And I feel like for people our age and a little bit older, that was kind of how it went. We caught it here and there, but it was people who were a few years younger than us, 4 or 5 years younger, that were actually like dialed in and watching this on a daily basis.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely did not see 90 episodes. It's not, and you can't even get all 90 of those episodes right now. I'm not sure how many episodes are on Disney Plus, but I think it's just the core, like 60. Um, but so I definitely not seen them all. What I have seen is just it's campy, but it has heart. It's funny, but there's actually a story, and the characters are really interesting. So I really liked this show, but like I said, it was never something you could be devoted to. And I blame this idea at the time that we don't have to air things in order. We don't have to have continuity for the fact that we never make the effort to watch all of these episodes because they each stand alone, right?
Well,
I think now we get a series like you want to watch from the beginning. You want to see because you want to know how the story goes.
I hate that, actually. I am not a fan of long form storytelling. And when I say long term or long form, I'm talking about multiple episodic stories. If it's more than 5 episodes, I'm going to struggle. I'm a movie guy. I'm a short story guy. I want to be in and out in 2 hours. So this would be a perfect show for me because I'm in and out in 30 minutes, 22 minutes before commercials. And it's a self-contained story each episode, right?
Right. There are two-parters.
Okay.
And you do have arcs, right? You have you have Morgana's arc, her redemption arc, right? What's going on with her? So you do have some character growth, but no, you don't need to know what happened in the last episode in order to appreciate the episode, except those two-parters. So it's easy entry. You're going to, if you have some background in Batman, in you have some background in The Shadow, or any of these other things they pull from, these classic comics, you're going to find a little nostalgia, a little homage going on in there, while you're laughing, while you're thinking it's absurd. And there really is in addition to that level that's going on, we're really bringing in a lot of that animation that hasn't been there since the Looney Tunes shorts, some of the original Disney shorts with anvils dropping on people and then being flattened and then springing back up. Those like crazy cartoonists like we saw in Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. Well, in Roger Rabbit, I'm kind of a student of that movie. Charlie Fleischer, who did the voice of Roger Rabbit,
right,
is a buddy of mine. We used to do stand-up comedy back in the day. And so that movie is near and dear to my heart for a couple of reasons. One, it has a friend of mine doing the voices. Two, it pays homage to the jazz era of American history, which I love. Right. And the animation was like next level groundbreaking. And if you watch Framed Roger Rabbit today, it's animation done in, what was that, 89, 90?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it rivals anything coming out.
I would say that it's better than a lot of these sort of mixed cartoon live action.
Oh, sure.
And I've heard several people, we will never, because the way they did it was so costly, took so much effort, took them so long to make that movie. You will never see animation and live action mixed that way, that well, ever again.
Well, and the proof of that was the Looney Tunes movie, or Space Jam. Well, both of them.
Yeah.
It was okay, but it was so obvious that the live action actors were standing in front of a green screen. And you didn't have that in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
And Who Framed Roger Rabbit? They actually made like practical props
right
to cause the cartoon characters to affect the real world. It gave those characters weight that no other attempt has ever. I think the closest. Did you see the Chip and Dale movie?
Yes, it was very good.
They were clearly trying, without spending the money, to do that, to get that Roger Rabbit feel, to give them some weight in the real world. But yeah, if you've seen the behind the scenes, the rigs and the things they created for that film, amazing.
So we had this revival of Disney animation in the theaters, and then with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, we see that classic animation style from the classic Disney, classic Warner Brothers, and with those classic characters. You had Warner Brothers, Terry Toons, you had the Fleischer Studio characters all mashed up. That'll never happen again. And and this classic animation, and it was a huge hit. Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a smash success. And so now studios are looking around going, oh, we can still do this stuff. There's an audience here. And I suspect that influenced a lot of the Disney block. And it's very evident in Darkwing Duck that influence is there.
Yeah, and I think without Darkwing Duck, you don't get gargoyles.
I would agree wholeheartedly.
I mean, maybe because of the success of Batman the Animated Series, but I think that it seals the deal. Right?
Yeah.
This was a success for them, critically, audience-wise. ABC ordering 2 more seasons, doing a 65 episode season 1. I mean, this is a success story. And funny to really think that it was going to be Bullwinkle and Friends.
Yeah, that is hysterical. Molly Daniel says, I wonder if I would have a better appreciation of Roger Rabbit now than I did when I first saw it in the theater. Yes. Yes, you will.
If you saw it as a child, right? Roger Rabbit, like the book was even more adult, but that material was meant to really be appreciated by the adults.
Yeah. Molly Daniel said, I loved Space Jam. A lot of people did. I wasn't one of them. Molly said she was in her early 20s when she saw Roger Rabbit. And, in that age, you're probably right in that middle ground where the juvenile humor is too juvenile and the adult humor is a little bit over your head. I think you would have a better appreciation for it now, Molly. And get it on Blu-ray. Or 4K. Don't do DVD or, God forbid, VHS. This is a movie that is meant to be seen in high def, Blu-ray or 4K Ultra. The colors pop. The animation is so clean. Everything looks beautiful.
So I'm glad you mentioned your friend Fleischer. What I thought was really interesting is that his character, he was a voice actor for the, he was there every day in the rabbit suit. He was method acting this character that he was only doing the voice for. And what's the name of the star of Roger Rabbit? The live action character.
It was Eddie Valiant.
And the actor was
Bob Hoskins.
That guy made that movie happen. I mean, he sold it. Sold it. Yeah, when you see the back, when he's riding in the taxi, see what he's actually doing. The apparatus they have him on, like this, like sled of death.
Yeah, hysterical stuff.
They had it at Hollywood Studios for a while, like in one of the restaurants, Disney's Hollywood Studios, there was the little cart that they used to film that. Then they animated it. But anyway, Bob Hoskins and Fleischer, they really gave of themselves to make that movie happen. And then they, spent the money. They were over budget. They were over budget. They
Well,
it was supposed to come out in like a year or something. It took like an extra year to make the film than what they had budgeted for.
now I'm going to criticize Roger Rabbit for one thing, and that is the casting of Kathleen Turner as Jessica Rabbit. Not because she wasn't brilliant, not because she wasn't the right person for that role, but she was cast as a mega star. She had just done Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Nile. There were a couple other movies that she was. So she was like the quote unquote name, the Hollywood name attached to that movie. And I think it set a bad precedent for big budget animated movies for them to step over established voice actors and bring in Hollywood stars. So anyway, that's my soapbox on that. Let's talk about some of the Darkwing Duck merch. Have you ever seen this game?
I have not seen that game.
It is by Milton Bradley. It is obviously a roll and move game.
Yep.
Looks very simple, but I want it. I want it. And in more recent years, Funko released the Darkwing Duck Funkoverse expansion pack to their, Funkoverse battle game. But I was doing some research on this.
You're going to show me that there's a piece of merch that you're going to show us here that I want.
Okay. Well, so I'm doing research for this, right?
Uh-huh.
And lo and behold, I come across the Super NES Darkwing Duck video game. And it was named one of the top 50 most beautiful video games ever created.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just a 16-bit side scroller. But look at the detail in the backdrop.
I see that. Yeah.
Look at the detail in the stone, in the rocks. It is truly beautiful. Now, here's the piece of merch that I know that you want. The duck ship, right?
No, I want the set with Negaduck in it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this was by Playmates on shelves. Here are the figures that came with it, and I could never. I don't remember seeing these in the stores, but look at how wonky Darkwing Duck's hat is on that, and it's because it like lifted up. You see in the. You can just barely see it in the image. You press a button on his back and his hat, flies up off of his head. But yeah, this is the set you're talking about.
That's what I want. Look at that. That is gorgeous.
Yeah.
That is.
And I want to say that this is NECA. I could be wrong. I did just see this at Hitchhiker Toys in White House, Tennessee, a couple of months ago, and lo and behold, or a couple of weeks ago rather, and I was shocked, I tell you, that the price on this was $56, which sounds like a lot to some people in our audience, but when you're talking about collector edition 2-packs, I was shocked it wasn't closer to 100. Especially when you have the multiple heads for each character, all of the weapons, and there's Negaduck's chainsaw.
Yeah, I can't believe it. The villain with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
Where were standards and practices? They were an enemy in the past. They're just letting everything slide now.
So Molly Daniels asks, weren't those the McDonald's toys? No, I couldn't find images of those. I do remember the McDonald's toys coming out, but I couldn't find any images for those. these images are definitely the Playmates action figures. Yep.
I can't get past that gold color. Everything instead of being orange, that gold color on the beak and the or the bill.
Oh yeah, kind of that. Yeah, I didn't even notice that until you just said it.
Yeah,
That's what it was. As
it's
opposed
so
to
much, so much. Yeah, that is just like they 3D printed the cartoon. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And Molly Daniels also adds, when she saw Roger Rabbit, she was 21 and hated it. My 19-year-old boyfriend loved it. I'd recommend you go back and check it out again.
Yeah, see if you like it now.
Yeah.
See if you some of the stuff that was like, why they're just being silly. See if you can find the hidden meaning behind some of the jokes.
Yeah. So, Dennis, any last tidbits about Darkwing Duck before we? I did notice you have that plushie.
Yeah.
Hold that up for the screen.
So yeah, for the Disney 100, they brought back or brought out characters that maybe never had been a plush before, and I found this my last trip to Disney World as a special character. They had this, and they had Hops from Zootopia that were came out for the special edition, and maybe didn't resonate with enough people. So I got him. I like him a lot. He's and then it's one of my favorite T-shirts.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's got writing on the back. Let's
wow.
get dangerous. So I mean, you don't normally get like a print on the front and the back of a shirt. It's kind of an oversized, like it's meant to be like a sleep shirt or something like that. I really like it a lot.
So can you do the whole motto, the whole thing that Darkwing Duck says?
Well, here's the thing. I am the terror that flaps in the night. And then the next line is different every time he says it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's one of the gimmicks of the show, is that every time he says it. Now, his other phrase that he'll say at least once every...
Dangerous.
Let's get dangerous. Yes. So it's really neat. And if you go on YouTube, you can get like a super clip of all of those intros. And sometimes it's just absurd or funny. The one I like the best is "I am the terror that flaps in the night," and then he says, "I am Gosalyn's adopted father," and he turns into Drake Mallard. He turns into his alter ego.
Oh, that's funny. So I'm going on a wild goose hunt here, because one of the most beloved Disney animated series in years was Phineas and Ferb.
Oh, yes, I love that.
And I'm looking to see if Darkwing Duck ever appeared on Phineas and Ferb, and no. What a travesty. That's a travesty. Anyway, well, thank you for sharing Darkwing Duck with us.
He did one robot chicken.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, Dennis, I know that you brought some new loot for us, so it is now time for Big Ball of Board Games, where Dennis Pottsy is going to share with us a game from his personal collection that he thinks is super cool.
Okay, so this is a game called Heroes Wanted, and it is a cooperative game where you play sort of that B hero. So you have come for, in response to a newspaper ad, you have come to apply to be the next superhero team. And when you get to the location to apply, there is an evil doer and his henchmen and their underlings, and they're all over. And you and the ragtag group of characters, that sort of randomly created superhero that you are, have to figure out how to fight back waves of evildoers. So you have these are the henchmen. You have little gray characters that are the underlings, and then you have the big bad evil mastermind. And so it's a great little game, and there are a whole bunch of different scenarios in the box, so you get to get some definite diversity in the game. There are a number of other superhero games out there, but I like this one for Darkwing because it's a less serious superhero, right? That randomly generated. What was that movie that came out? Like the misfit band of misfit superheroes. It's that kind of a ragtag group of each of the heroes that automatically generated gets some kind of quirk and to offset their superpower. So that is the game that I brought to show you guys today. Heroes Wanted, cooperative, silly, hero battle. So
Dennis, I see that it uses the generic meeples. For those of you who don't know, board game meeple is like a person-shaped token. But check this out. So I picked this up a couple of years ago. Speaking about a superhero game. Here, let me just. I'm all discombobulated now because I didn't know this was what you were going to be showing off. But first of all, we got the Hall of Justice.
Oh, I like that.
And these are what they're called Mighty Meeples. And the Mighty Meeples, in this case, are the Super Friends. So
the Super Friends. Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So you got Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, Flash, and Green Lantern. Or the Justice League, if depending. And they made the whole ton of these. Like a whole mess of them. And I think I've got the whole collection, but only these 7 came in the collectible tin that looks like the Hall of Justice. And I've actually got 2 of these. So Molly Daniels asks, no Zan and Jaina? Yes, they did do Zan and Jaina Mighty Meeples. Dennis, we just lost your camera. There he is. There he's back.
I was going to look for something. So I actually have, there was a class of sort of collectible gaming characters called HeroClix.
Yes.
And I have a whole slew of HeroClix, and they're different. Like I have I have the stretchy guy from the Fantastic Four, whose name is. But I have a whole bunch of the characters from HeroClix. So if you also like superhero games, have you ever heard of HeroScape?
Yes, HeroScape, and they are just. Is that the new release? The re-release? Because they're getting ready to release it again.
I believe it. Yeah. So now this is the Milton Bradley set.
Yeah.
I have both the sort of Dungeons and Dragons themed one and the Marvel one.
What made me think about pulling out these was that you had the meeples on Heroes Wanted.
Yeah.
And so you some of these Mighty Meeples might serve as great substitutes. And Molly Daniels asks, was that Aquaman in there, Johnny? Yes. There he is.
Look at that. Aquaman.
Yeah.
So how good he'd be in the streets like that, away from his element, but yeah, he could be there.
Well, fantastic. Well, we are caught up on comments. We've covered a lot of ground tonight, and we're right at the hour mark. So before we say so long, farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, bonjour, We've talked about Darkwing Duck, DuckTales, woo, and shown off some great amusements with Heroes Wanted board game. Dennis, is there anything else that you want to share with our audience?
No, I think we covered it. Have you done an episode on gargoyles yet?
No.
Meh.
If you want to make that your next episode, we can do that.
Yeah, I think let's talk about it. I love that. I love the voice actors. You have to see Marina Sirtis and Jonathan Frakes as voice actors. It's a great show, and it's got a lot of seriousness and interesting meaty stories to it. So
that is fantastic. Well, hey, before we say goodnight, I need to let everyone know that it is spooky season once again. And one of our sponsors is back, Nightly Spirits Ghost Tours. And they operate in 18 cities across the United States doing historic haunted tours. And if you use my promo code, John P667 at nightlyspirits.com, you take 10% off your booking, and we get a little kickback for that. So you help us. It costs you nothing extra, but it helps us out if you want to do something fun and exciting during the spooky season and a little bit offbeat. And of course, we have to acknowledge our charity sponsor, Dennis, Comic Books for Kids. Check this out.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.
They are awesome.
DuckTales?
What's that?
Did you see that one of the comics that they showed in that piece was DuckTales?
No, I missed it. That's fantastic.
Great.
Thanks for catching that. That's fantastic. Well, Dennis, before we go, tell everyone once again about Books and More in Pulaski. How can they find you? Are you online? Do the thing.
So, Books and More is in the downtown square in Pulaski. Pulaski is about an hour south of Nashville. And you can find us on Facebook. Our Facebook tag is Books and More TN. Just spell the whole thing out, Books and More TN. And you can find our Facebook page there. And we're here 6 days a week. We'd love to have you come down and play with us.
Outstanding. If you're in the Middle Tennessee area, make a trip down there, or even if you're not. Pulaski, Tennessee is just within 5 miles or 500 miles of Atlanta and Indianapolis and St. Louis and Huntsville, Alabama. So,
Yeah, we're actually closer to Huntsville than we are to Johnny.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you like the show, tell 200-300 of your closest friends and family to come share the fun. Give us a thumbs up, comment, give us a good review, 5-star on Apple or Spotify. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, make sure you subscribe, click the notification button so you never miss an episode. And of course, you too can have your name in lights with our Cereal Box Super Friends at patreon.com/cerealboxpodcast. Member perks start at $2 a month and go up from there. Our $5 patrons get more. Our $10 patrons get more, and our $20 patrons are VIPs, and they get to host their own show and promote their business once a month. So consider becoming a patron on Patreon. And with that, we will say good night and love you, mean it. We'll catch you on the back of the cereal box.
It's like Coca-Cola, Levi's